Everyone has made mistakes, and if you've lived long enough, you've certainly carried regrets, moments you wish you could erase, choices that still make you wince when you think about them. That's part of being human. But here's the truth many people never realize until it's too late: your mistakes are not meant to be your identity. They're meant to be your lessons. Yet the moment you start openly sharing those mistakes with the wrong people, you hand them the power to reduce you to your weakest chapters. And that's why older women, especially, must learn the wisdom of silence when it comes to their past. See, society often doesn't forgive women the way it forgives men. A man can fall, rise again, and people will call him resilient, a warrior, a hero. But when a woman stumbles, when she makes a poor choice, when she follows the wrong path for even a moment, people label her, and those labels stick for years. That is the cruelty of double standards, which means the details of your past, your failures, your heartbreaks, your shame, do not belong to just anyone. They belong to you, and they should be handled with sacred caution. Think about it: the person you are today is not the same as the person you were 10 or 20 years ago. The woman you've become has grown stronger, wiser, sharper. She's built herself through fire and storms. But if you tell the wrong person about the mistakes of your younger self, they won't honor the transformation. You'll watch them drag you backward into the past. They'll whisper, "She's the one who did this," or "She's the woman who went through that." And suddenly, instead of being respected for who you are now, you're reduced to who you used to be. That's why silence is power. Older women carry stories that could fill books. Some are filled with triumph, but many are filled with pain, bad relationships, broken trust, decisions made out of fear or desperation. And while sharing can sometimes help others, the reality is that most people don't want to learn from your mistakes. They want to use them against you. They want to gossip. They want to feel superior. They want to remind you that you are not perfect. But perfection isn't the goal. Growth is. And growth is most visible when you choose to protect your scars instead of displaying them for everyone to pick at. There's also another danger in oversharing your past mistakes. When you tell people too much, you rob yourself of the dignity you worked so hard to rebuild. Imagine finally healing from a painful chapter, finally moving forward, only to have someone throw your old life back into your face because you gave them the ammunition. It's like handing over the keys to your past prison and asking someone else to lock you back in. Why give anyone that much control? Now, some will argue that honesty is important, that sharing openly builds connection. That's true, to a point. Yes, honesty matters. But honesty doesn't mean full disclosure to everyone. Honesty means being real about who you are in the present, not putting your entire past on public display. There are parts of your story that only belong to you, parts that should remain private, sacred, untouchable. Protecting those parts is not lying, it's wisdom. It's drawing boundaries that say, my mistakes don't belong to the world, they belong to me. Think about the women you've admired most. They weren't women who told the world every painful detail of their past. They were women who carried an air of dignity, mystery, and strength. You could sense they had lived, you could sense they had been through battles, but you couldn't quite put your finger on what exactly those battles were. And that's what made them powerful, because instead of letting people define them by the past, they defined themselves by who they had become. Older women should especially embrace this wisdom because life experience is both a crown and a target. The crown is the wisdom it gives you, the ability to see through lies, to recognize patterns, to walk with strength. The target is the envy it attracts, the judgment from those who can't handle your resilience. The more they know about your past, the easier it is for them to aim at your vulnerabilities. But the less they know, the more they're forced to deal with the woman standing in front of them today, not the girl you once were. Silence also teaches respect. People respect what they don't fully understand. They respect what they can't label. When you keep parts of your past to yourself, you force others to respect your present. You leave them no choice but to interact with who you are now, not who you were before. And that shift changes everything. Your past mistakes may be the reason you carry wisdom today, but they don't need to be the reason people look down on you. And sadly, that's exactly what happens when older women overshare. They invite people to sit in judgment over them. Instead, guard your story like treasure. Share it only with those who have proven they can protect it. Share it only when your goal is to heal, not to expose yourself. Otherwise, let silence shield you. Because here's the truth. Mistakes don't define you unless you allow them to. And the quickest way to let them define you is to hand them out as stories to people who don't deserve them. Your mistakes made you wise, but your silence makes you untouchable. And that combination, wisdom and untouchability, is what gives older women their unshakable power. So never forget this: you are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not the choices you regret. You are the woman who learned, who grew, who rose again. And the less you allow the world to access those chapters, the more they'll be forced to see the masterpiece that stands before them today. Money is one of the most dangerous topics to expose, especially for older women. The truth is simple: the moment people know too much about your financial situation, their perception of you changes. If you have more than they expected, envy begins to build in their hearts. If you have less than they assumed, pity creeps in, or worse, exploitation. That is why your financial life, whether abundant or struggling, should be guarded like a secret garden. Not everyone deserves access to it, because once they enter, they will either try to take something or trample on what you've built. There is a harsh reality many people never acknowledge: money brings out the truth in others. It reveals their hidden greed, their jealousy, their opportunism. A woman who openly talks about her wealth soon discovers that some people are only around her for what she can give. They smile at her, not because they value her, but because they value what she owns. And the moment her resources dry up, so does their loyalty. That is not friendship, and that is not love. It is transaction. On the other side, a woman who speaks too freely about her struggles with money becomes a target for a different kind of opportunist. Some will disguise their pity as care, but deep inside they enjoy feeling superior. Others will prey on her vulnerability, offering help that comes with hidden strings attached. And some will simply gossip, reducing her identity to her financial lack. That's why silence is protection. The less they know, the more control you have over how you are perceived. Older women, in particular, must be cautious. Why? Because by this stage of life, society often underestimates you. If you're financially comfortable, some will assume you don't deserve it, that you were lucky, or that someone else provided it. If you're financially struggling, they may dismiss your wisdom, reducing you to your bank balance. But your worth has nothing to do with your wallet. Your value is not measured in currency. It's measured in character, resilience, and experience. And anyone who tries to define you by your finances doesn't deserve to know the truth about them. Money is also deeply tied to power dynamics in relationships. In friendships, too much information can shift the balance. If they know you earn more, some will resent you silently. If they know you earn less, some will patronize you. Either way, the relationship is poisoned. In family, it can become even more dangerous. Relatives who know too much about your financial state may start expecting handouts, pressuring you, or even fighting over resources before you're gone. Silence, again, is protection, not just for you, but for your peace. Think of how many stories we've heard of women being drained by so-called friends or distant relatives once their financial success became known. Or how many women confided their struggles only to be ridiculed, pitied, or treated like burdens. All of this happens not because money itself is evil, but because people's hearts change when money enters the conversation. The more you reveal, the less freedom you have to live without interference. There is also the matter of dignity. When a woman carries herself with quiet strength, no one can pin her down to a number. They cannot say she's rich or she's broke because they simply don't know. And that not knowing forces them to respect her for who she is, not what she owns. There is dignity in mystery, in leaving others uncertain, in allowing them to guess but never to confirm. That's the kind of power silence gives. And let's be honest, money fluctuates. What you have today may not be what you have tomorrow. If you've built your relationships on openness about your financial situation, then every rise and fall becomes a spectacle for others to watch. They'll whisper when you gain, and they'll whisper louder when you lose. But when you stay private, your wins and losses remain your own. The world doesn't get to feast on your victories or laugh at your setbacks. You live free of their commentary. Some may say, but what about trust? Shouldn't I be able to share with the people I love? The answer is yes, but with discernment. Not everyone who smiles at you is trustworthy. Not everyone who listens is safe. You must filter carefully who earns the right to know your reality. A spouse, perhaps. A trusted child. A lifelong friend who has proven loyalty over decades. But beyond that, the fewer who know the better. Because information is power, and the wrong person with power over you can turn your life upside down. For older women especially, financial privacy is also a shield against manipulation in relationships. A man who knows too much about what you have can start calculating whether he wants you or your resources. A so-called friend who knows your struggles might keep you close just to feel superior. Strangers, neighbors, co-workers, they don't need access to your ledger. They don't need to know if you're counting pennies or stacking wealth. The moment you protect your financial privacy, you also protect your independence. At this stage in life, peace is more valuable than possessions, and nothing disrupts peace faster than letting the world into your wallet. So hold it close. Share only when necessary, and remember, money may attract people, but silence attracts respect. When you protect your financial privacy, you protect yourself from envy, pity, manipulation, and gossip. In the end, it's simple. Your money, whether abundant or scarce, is your business alone. It does not define you, it does not determine your worth, and it does not need to be broadcast to anyone. Guard it, protect it, and let the world wonder. Because the woman who keeps her finances private holds more power than the one who lays everything bare. Health is one of the most personal parts of your life, and for older women, it is something that should be shared with care and great discretion. Not everyone deserves to know what you are going through physically, emotionally, or medically. The truth is, the moment you open up too freely about your health struggles, people begin to look at you differently. They may not mean harm at first, but it changes the way they see you, the way they treat you, and sometimes even the way they value you. That's why your health, while important, must remain a guarded truth, revealed only to those who truly need to know. One of the sad realities is that when others hear about your struggles, many of them unconsciously start to see you as weaker, less capable, or fragile. They begin to question whether you can handle responsibility, whether you can manage stress, or whether you are still as strong as you once were. And once that perception forms in their minds, it becomes nearly impossible to shake off. You are no longer the confident woman they once admired. You become the woman with health issues. That kind of label reduces your identity, and for many, it becomes the only thing they remember about you. The other danger is pity. People might show sympathy, but pity is rarely empowering. It makes you feel smaller, as though you are defined only by your illness or condition. You notice it in the way they soften their tone, in the way they avoid including you in certain conversations, or in the way they exclude you from activities because they assume you can't handle it. Sometimes they do this out of care, but the impact on your dignity is heavy. You are robbed of your independence because they have already decided your limitations for you. And of course, there is gossip. Nothing travels faster in certain circles than news of someone's health struggle. One person tells another, and soon your private pain becomes community knowledge. People you barely know start looking at you with those sympathetic eyes, making comments or asking invasive questions. It is dehumanizing, and worse, it strips away your privacy and turns your personal struggle into a public story. This is why discretion is power. The fewer people know, the more control you have over how you live and how you are perceived. This doesn't mean you should carry every burden in silence. No, suffering in complete isolation is not strength, it's a prison. But it does mean that you must carefully select who earns the right to hear about your struggles. Not every friend is a confidant. Not every family member is a safe place. The circle of people you confide in should be small, trusted, and proven by loyalty. A doctor, of course. A spouse or a lifelong friend who has stood by you through seasons of hardship. Maybe a child who has shown true care and maturity. But beyond that circle, you must ask yourself, what do they gain from knowing this? If the answer is nothing, then silence is the wiser choice. There is also the matter of energy. Talking too much about your health can make you live in your struggle more than you need to. When you constantly share the details, it keeps your mind anchored to your pain instead of your healing. And worse, you may notice that some people feed off negativity. They love to ask questions, not to support you, but because they are fascinated by drama and decline. They don't walk away uplifted, and neither do you. Your energy is too precious to waste on those kinds of conversations. For older women especially, guarding your health details is a way to protect your strength. Society often already assumes that age equals weakness. If you add too much detail about your struggles, you risk confirming their stereotype. They may stop expecting leadership from you, they may dismiss your voice, or they may push you aside because they believe you are no longer strong enough. Yet, we know that wisdom and experience don't disappear because of health challenges. If anything, those struggles deepen your strength. But people don't always see it that way, which is why you must choose carefully what you reveal. There is another dimension too, manipulation. Some people will use your health struggles as leverage against you. In workplaces, it can affect opportunities. In relationships, it can be used to guilt, trip, or control you. In friendships, it can shift the balance, making you feel dependent rather than equal. This is not fair, but it is real. And once again, silence is protection. If they don't know your vulnerabilities, they cannot weaponize them. Of course, there is also the deeper truth. Your health struggles are part of your story, but they are not the whole story. You are more than your diagnosis, more than your aches, more than your medical file. You are wisdom, resilience, and dignity. If you overshare your health, you allow others to reduce you to just one chapter of your book, and your life is far richer than that. By being selective, you ensure that people see you as a whole person, not just as a patient. That is the gift of restraint. By choosing carefully who knows, you keep your dignity intact, your privacy safe, and your power strong. You get to define yourself, not your illness. You get to decide who walks beside you in your struggle, not the whole world. And you preserve peace, because not every battle needs to be fought under the eyes of the crowd. In the end, health is personal. It is sacred. It deserves to be treated with care, not as casual conversation. When you guard it, you honor yourself. When you reveal it selectively, you protect your dignity. And when you keep certain struggles private, you remind the world that you are not to be defined by your pain, but by your strength, your wisdom, and the life you continue to live with courage. Every woman carries a collection of memories, some beautiful, some painful, and some she wishes she could erase. These regrets, these choices from the past that didn't turn out the way she hoped, are a universal part of being human. But here's the truth many people never say out loud. Not all regrets should be shared, especially not by older women. Because the moment you reveal them openly, people stop listening to who you are now and start defining you by what you once did. And your past, no matter how complicated, does not deserve to chain you down in the present. When you share regrets too freely, you hand people a lens through which they will always see you. They no longer see the woman of wisdom who has endured, overcome, and grown. They see the mistakes, the missteps, the pain. And whether they intend to or not, they will quietly hold those confessions against you. They might pity you, they might silently judge you, or they might gossip about you. But what they rarely do is separate the woman from the story. People have a way of exaggerating the past once they know it. You tell them a regret in confidence, and suddenly, in their mind, it grows larger than it really was. One mistake becomes your identity. One poor choice becomes your legacy. That's how gossip and human weakness work, by inflating what should have remained private and turning it into something that defines you unfairly. Another truth is this: when older women share too many regrets, people sometimes use it as ammunition. In conflicts, family arguments, or broken friendships, those confessions can be thrown back at you. Something you revealed in vulnerability gets twisted into a weapon to diminish your strength. And that is a cruel betrayal, but one that happens all too often. Protecting your regrets means protecting yourself from those who would misuse them. There's also the danger of perception. A woman who constantly shares her regrets may be seen as bitter, stuck in the past, or unable to move forward. Instead of being admired for her resilience, she risks being pitied for her mistakes. And pity is never empowering. Regret shared in the wrong places doesn't free you, it binds you to the very memories you were trying to rise above. Now, let's be clear, this doesn't mean you should carry your regrets in silence forever. No. There is healing in sharing, but only with the right people and in the right way. Perhaps with a trusted mentor, a spiritual guide, or a counselor who can help you release the weight. Or maybe with a close loved one who has earned the right to hear your pain, someone who will honor your story without reshaping it into gossip. But outside of that sacred circle, regrets should remain guarded. Because regrets, when shared carelessly, do not inspire others the way we hope. You may think that by sharing you are teaching or warning, but many people don't hear the wisdom. They only hear the mistake. They don't walk away saying, "She's wise because she learned from it." They walk away whispering, "Did you hear what she did?" That's human nature, and it's why discretion is not secrecy, it's strength. Another reason to keep regrets private is that they lose their power when you outgrow them. The very act of living beyond your mistakes, of building a stronger self, is what transforms regret into wisdom. If you dwell on it too much or speak of it too often, you keep reopening the wound instead of letting the scar remind you silently of your strength. Silence in this case is not weakness, it's healing. Older women especially must understand this: your dignity is too valuable to be buried under stories of past mistakes. You've lived too much life, gained too much wisdom, and overcome too many battles to let regrets define you in anyone's eyes. Yes, you have them, everyone does, but you are not required to explain them, confess them, or defend them to anyone who hasn't earned the right to your truth. Think about it. When you meet someone who radiates strength, do you admire them less because you don't know their regrets? Of course not. You admire them for who they are now, for the aura they carry, for the wisdom they project. That's how you deserve to be seen too. Not through the lens of what went wrong once, but through the beauty of what you've become despite it. Regrets, when guarded, also preserve your relationships. In families, for example, certain past confessions can permanently alter how children or grandchildren see you. They may lose respect, not because you are unworthy, because they cannot separate the woman they love from the regret you revealed. Why risk letting their view of you dim? Protecting certain truths ensures that love stays pure, that respect remains intact, and that your dignity continues unshaken. And here's the deeper truth: sometimes the past doesn't need to be retold, it only needs to be redeemed by how you live today. Every act of kindness, every word of wisdom, every moment of grace you offer is proof that your past did not define you. That's the legacy worth leaving, not a list of mistakes you wish you could take back. The world doesn't need your regrets to learn from you, it needs your resilience. So guard your regrets the way you guard your treasures. Share them only with those who can carry them gently, who will not turn them into chains. Keep them out of the mouths of gossips, out of the eyes of critics, and out of the hands of manipulators. Your story is too valuable to be reduced to the parts you wish had been different. In the end, regrets are private teachers. They shape you, they humble you, they remind you of your humanity. But they are yours, not the world's. They don't need to be paraded as warnings or offered as confessions. Because the truth is simple: you are not your regrets. You are the wisdom they left behind, the strength they forced you to build, and the woman who still stands tall today. And that, not the mistakes, is what deserves to be seen and remembered. There is a certain magic in dreams. They are the whispers of your soul, the quiet visions of the life you still want to live, no matter your age. Dreams are delicate, like seeds that need darkness and protection before they can sprout into something real. But the moment you expose them too soon, they become vulnerable, not just to the world's criticism, but also to its doubts, its envy, and even its sabotage. For older women especially, keeping future plans private is a way of protecting both your peace and your power. When you speak too openly about your dreams, you invite voices into them. Voices that can distort, discourage, and derail you. Some people will dismiss your ideas as unrealistic. They'll say you're too old, too late, or too inexperienced to pursue something new. And once those words lodge in your mind, they can kill your motivation before you even begin. That is why silence is often the strongest shield. It keeps your vision pure, untouched by the negativity of others. There's also envy to consider. Not everyone around you wants to see you succeed. Some may smile, but inside, they resent the fact that you are brave enough to keep dreaming while they've given up on themselves. Your courage exposes their complacency, and instead of being inspired, they grow jealous. And jealousy is dangerous. It leads people to criticize you harshly, to talk behind your back, and sometimes even to work against you. Protecting your plans from such energy ensures that you move forward without hidden resistance. The truth is, most people can't see what you see. Dreams are personal visions. They are born out of your experiences, your passions, your lessons, and your longings. They weren't given to anyone else, so how could they possibly understand them fully? When you try to explain your vision, you often find yourself facing blank stares, raised eyebrows, or unsolicited advice. And that advice, though it may sound logical, can strip the passion from your dream because it's not rooted in your heart. It's rooted in their limitations. Silence, on the other hand, protects the sacredness of your vision. When you keep your plans close, you get to nurture them quietly, allowing them to grow stronger before exposing them to the harsh winds of the outside world. Like a child in the womb, your dream needs safety before it can face the world. Sharing too early is like pulling a flower out of the soil before it has taken root. No matter how much potential it has, it won't survive the exposure. For older women, there is an added layer to this. Society already has a script it tries to hand you: slow down, settle, accept that your best days are behind you. When you speak of new dreams, whether it's starting a business, traveling, writing a book, learning a skill, some will laugh. Some will question why you even bother. They will try to convince you that dreaming belongs to the young, but that is a lie. Dreams belong to the living, no matter their age. And when you keep your plans private, you shield them from those who would suffocate them with small-mindedness. There is also the power of surprise. When people don't know what you are planning, they cannot interfere, they cannot judge prematurely, and they cannot prepare themselves to diminish your success. And when you finally reveal the results, they are forced to face the undeniable truth: you did it. Without warning, without permission, without their approval. That shock alone becomes part of your strength. Another danger of oversharing dreams is that talking about them can sometimes trick your mind into feeling as though you've already achieved them. Psychologists call this false fulfillment. The more you describe your plans, the more your brain feels like progress has been made and your drive weakens. Silence keeps the hunger alive. It forces you to put energy into action rather than words. That is why some of the most successful people in history worked in silence, revealing only the finished product. But keeping your dreams private doesn't mean never sharing. It means choosing wisely who you allow into that sacred space. Perhaps a mentor who can guide you. Perhaps a partner who truly believes in you. Perhaps a small circle of trusted allies who encourage rather than criticize. But the world at large does not deserve access to your inner visions. Not yet. Not until you decide it is time. There is also freedom in secrecy. When no one knows your plans, you are free to change them, reshape them, or abandon them without judgment. If you tell the world, you bind yourself to their expectations. If you stay silent, you remain flexible, able to adapt as life unfolds. That freedom is essential, especially as you grow older and value peace over pressure. Your dreams are proof that your soul is still alive and burning with possibility. They are the spark that keeps you moving forward, that reminds you your story is not finished yet. Protecting them is an act of self-love. It is a declaration that your visions matter enough to be guarded until they are strong enough to stand on their own. So keep your dreams close to your heart, like treasures no one else can touch. Let the world see the results, not the blueprint. Let them wonder how you did it, not interfere while you are still building it. Silence is not secrecy, it is strategy. It is how you ensure that when your dreams finally unfold, they do so in their purest, strongest form. And when that moment comes, you won't need to explain yourself. Your life will speak louder than any words ever could. There is a kind of strength that doesn't shout, it doesn't post itself on social media, it doesn't beg for applause, and it doesn't need to be validated by others. It's the quiet strength that older women carry, the kind that has been built over decades of challenges, heartbreaks, victories, and lessons learned in silence. But here is the truth. Not every battle you've fought, not every struggle you've endured, needs to be put on display for others. Some victories are sacred. Some scars are yours alone. And when you keep those private, you protect both your dignity and your power. The world has an obsession with exposure. Everywhere you look, People are told to share their story, to make their pain public, to bare their wounds for others to see. But the problem is, not everyone who listens is listening with love. Some are listening to gossip, others to compare, and some simply to diminish what you've been through. This is why your private battles, those nights you cried alone, those storms you overcame, those demons you defeated, do not belong to the world. They belong to you. They made you who you are, but they do not need to be performed like a play for anyone else. When you reveal too much of your struggles, people begin to define you by them. They stop seeing the strength it took to overcome and start focusing on the weakness you once carried. They might treat you with pity, or worse, with subtle disrespect, because in their minds, you are no longer the strong woman they admire. You are the woman who went through that. And once people lock you into that category, it becomes almost impossible to reclaim the full truth of who you are. But when you guard those battles, something powerful happens. People see only the resilience, not the pain. They see the wisdom, not the wounds. They see the woman who stands tall, not the one who was once brought to her knees. The mystery is not deception, it is dignity. It allows you to be known for your strength rather than for your struggles. And that is a legacy worth protecting. Some might say, but isn't vulnerability a form of strength? And yes, in the right spaces it is. Vulnerability with the right people, trusted friends, family, mentors, can be healing, liberating, even life-changing. But vulnerability with the wrong people is not strength, it is exposure. It hands your soul to those who have not earned the right to hold it. And once exposed, you cannot control what they do with it. They may share it twisted or use it against you. That's why wisdom lies not in endless openness, but in selective sharing. Older women know this truth better than anyone. Life has already taught you that not everyone who smiles at you is a friend. Not everyone who listens is loyal. And not everyone who promises to care will handle your pain with care. This is why keeping certain battles private is not coldness, it's intelligence. It's knowing that your inner strength is too valuable to be placed in careless hands. Another reason to keep your private battles to yourself is peace. The more you talk about your past struggles, the more you relive them. Every retelling is a reopening of the wound, a stirring of the old emotions. And sometimes, the best way to truly move forward is to leave those battles where they belong in the past. Silence becomes a form of healing. You no longer give life to what hurt you. Instead, you allow yourself to live in the present where your power is. There is also something deeply magnetic about mystery. A woman who has clearly lived, who radiates strength, who carries herself with quiet dignity, is far more respected than a woman who constantly explains herself. People can sense when you've been through storms, but if you don't hand them the details, they're left only with admiration. They think she's strong instead of she suffered. That difference matters. It shifts the focus from your pain to your power. And let's not forget that some things lose their beauty when over-explained. Your inner strength is one of them. When you keep your private struggles guarded, you honor the sacredness of what you went through. You acknowledge that not everything is meant for display. Some things are between you and God, between you and the universe, between you and the quiet strength inside yourself. Protecting that is not hiding. It is reverence for your own journey. At this stage of life, peace is more important than attention. You don't need the world to validate your battles. You've already validated yourself by surviving them. You don't need the world to clap for your victories. The fact that you are still standing is applause enough. And you don't need to explain the depths of your resilience, because the way you carry yourself says more than words ever could. So guard your inner strength. Protect your private battles. Share your story when you choose, with whom you choose, and only when it serves healing or growth, not when it simply serves curiosity. Let the world admire your glow without knowing every flame you walked through to achieve it. Because mystery is not weakness, it is power. Silence is not emptiness, it is wisdom. And privacy is not fear, it is freedom. The world does not need to know everything you've endured. It only needs to know that you endured. That is enough. As we come to the close of this message, remember this truth. Strength is not in telling the world everything, it is in knowing what to protect. Older women carry wisdom, resilience, and grace, but those treasures can be diminished when placed in careless hands. That is why your age, your finances, your health, your regrets, your dreams, and your deepest battles should never be left open for everyone to dissect. These are not just details of your life, they are pieces of your soul. And your soul deserves guarding. When you choose privacy, you are not being secretive, you are being wise. You are choosing dignity over exposure, peace over pity, and power over vulnerability. You are teaching the world that not every truth is theirs to own, and not every story is theirs to hear. Because at the end of the day, people will only treat you as well as the boundaries you set. Protecting yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. So stand tall in your silence. Guard the sacred parts of your life. Speak only when it serves your peace, and remain quiet when it protects your dignity. The woman who knows what to reveal and what to withhold is not just wise, she is untouchable. And when you carry that kind of wisdom, you no longer need the world's approval because you already have something far greater: self-respect, inner strength, and unshakable freedom.